So why did the chicken cross the road? Yes, to get to the... And of course, in crossing the road, he was entering into the neutral zone. He stopped on the double yellow lines because that was the only safe place while he tried to dodge the traffic so that he wouldn't become chicken fricassee. The neutral zone, that crossing of the road, can be at once a very scary place, yeah? And then at the same time, an opportunity for rest and healing and recovery. You see, because whatever kind of ending that we have experienced in life, whether it's the ending of something that happens willingly or it's an ending that comes at us unwillingly, in order for there to be a new beginning, we must traverse a neutral zone, a crossing of the road. Endings can bring about great sadness in life. They really do. When we experience, the death of a loved one, there's great sadness at that ending. And sadness is always wearying and tiresome. But the problem with sadness is that it doesn't allow us to see anything beyond that end. That's it. On the other hand, endings can also be an opportunity for satisfaction. Satisfaction can also be wearying and tiresome. But the difference between sadness and satisfaction is that satisfaction allows us to see that at that ending there will be followed a new beginning. Satisfaction always enables us to see beyond what's happening right here and now. That something good, something wonderful will happen. On June the 30th, 2014, both of the Catholic parishes here in Tamaqua came to an end. One was the mother church for the entire region, not just this town, but for the entire region. In fact, one of the oldest parishes in the diocese. The other, an ethnic stronghold. But while the new parish of St. John the 23rd was begun on July 1st of 2014, these past 2 years have been, and I've asked you to think about this last week, a kind of neutral zone for us. And for many, including myself, these past 2 years have been very scary. Very early on, it was, we don't know what's going to happen and how it's all going to play out. In fact, I didn't know what was going to happen or how it was going to play out because I've never done anything like this before. Try to bring two communities and make them create one new community. Many people who had been long-time active parishioners in one or the other community have moved on to other parishes, and for a variety of reasons. Some have even stopped practicing their faith altogether. I suspect because, whether we acknowledge it or not, it's been scary, because it feels like something has been lost, an end that has no new beginning. See, that ending always brings us to an empty place. And empty places are always scary. That ending represents an absence of something, and we try to fill it with something as quickly as we possibly can. But really, the best way to experience that neutral zone, the best way to get through it, is to experience the emptiness and to allow the emptiness to be, and to allow there to be time, well, maybe even to be alone. Being alone, of course, is scary, but it's in that place that we might best be able to understand and see things new and differently. In fact, I think that that's really the message that Jesus is trying to convey to his disciples in this wonderful gospel passage. He is alone, the gospel tells us, praying by himself, and the disciples were with him, and he asked them, "Who do the crowds say that I am?" Alone he is, but with his disciples. How do people see me? He asks them. What is the experience that people have of me? He wants to know. Their response, of course, is typical, because they have their own ideas. They have their own way of thinking about what he should be and how she should act, and what the church should be and how the church should act. But then he kind of turns the tables a bit, and he says to them, but who do you say that I am? What about you? What do you really think about me? He says to them, because the point is, I want you to think differently about me. I want you to see me different than anyone else. I want you to experience me in a different kind of way. Because the reality is that in order to follow me, in order to really be a disciple, this is what you must do. If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. I think that those two sentences can be summed up in one word. And that one word really points to the first step of the neutral zone. The one word, surrender. Accept the reality of life as it is. Accept the reality of the neutral zone. Accept what has happened these past 2 years, all the good and even the not so good things that seem to have happened these years. Not easy to do, but easier when you understand that every ending is followed by a new beginning. Because resurrection always follows crucifixion. Remember a couple of weeks ago I told you about the conversation that I had with Bishop Barres at his residence when he invited me to lunch. I said to him, I feel like I've been crucified. Little did I know of the resurrection that awaited me. Another thing to keep in mind about this idea of surrender is the dismantling that happens, but only so that something new can be rebuilt. And the dismantling isn't necessarily about something is bad or defective. That something, maybe like the parishes here in Tamaqua, are not bad and defective. They were good. They were good. But maybe the way to see this neutral zone and to see what has happened is to put it in the perspective of, well, an apple tree that needs the cold of winter in order to produce a fruit that is juicy and red and wonderful. Maybe to think about it that way. When I think about it for myself, I know I was not a defective priest. I was pretty good at what I did. I pat myself on the back. You can do that. But I know I needed renewal because I know I needed to get back to the whole reason as to why I wanted to be a priest in the first place. And then this idea of surrender finally is all about a perspective. Because the neutral zone can be an opportunity to get a whole new perspective, to see things differently. A view that you can't get anyplace else. You know, during that time of sabbatical, I had the opportunity to work in a parish in Ireland. I got to work 6 weeks in an Irish parish. You talk about a different experience, let me tell you. It was a different experience. It was a wonderful experience. I got to say, mostly what I did was celebrate Mass. I really didn't do anything more than that daily. But on the weekends, we had 6 churches that we took care of. And the we is myself and the pastor, Father Brendan, and Father James, an 80-year-old retired guy. You think 6 parishes, 6 pastors, 6 churches, no big deal. They probably were all in one town. One was in Barnesville, one was in McAdoo, one was in Nisquahoning, one was in Summit Hill, one was in Lansford, and one was in Tamaqua. 6 churches that far apart. And we took turns traveling to 2 of them each week to say 7 masses. Not 7 total between the 6 churches. Gave me a whole new perspective on the church and what the church is all about. And in fact, I learned a lot of things. I learned in particular 2 things. One was that I learned what a church is. It truly is a place where people gather to worship God. And I also learned what a church isn't. What it isn't is self-centered consumers oriented towards a business that needs to be maintained. It's a place for the mission of Jesus Christ to be fulfilled. What else happens in the neutral zone? For some, including myself, we've discovered these last 2 years what we really want. For me, it's what I want. I want to be a good and holy priest. I want you to know me as a man of prayer, first and foremost. I want to be that way so that I can proclaim the gospel for you. I want to go to heaven. I want to do God's will. That's what I want. For some, the neutral zone is a time to realize what would happen, what would be unlived if life ended today. If my life ended today, what would be unlived? I don't know about you, but for me, it would be missing out on seeing all the good work that we've done come to fruition. For some, the neutral zone is a time to go on a kind of journey, a passage journey. In fact, those 7 months were indeed a journey in a literal sense, a life-changing experience going from here to Rome, to the Holy Land, to Ireland, to Rome, to London. But more than that, it was a journey from sadness to satisfaction. It was a journey from emptiness to resolution. The resolution that comes with the resurrection. In the next couple of years, my first 2 years here in Tamaqua really solidified what happened for me on that journey. And I'll talk about that in the coming weeks through July as we get into the second part of this series. Some have realized that the neutral zone, what ended, was wonderful and good and holy. And not something that was lost and forever forgotten, but rather something that was written in the, as it were, history books. A memory to be cherished forever. What is it for you? What's the neutral zone for you? What do you really want? What would happen if your life ended, and what would be unlived if your life ended today? What's the journey, the passage journey that you may still need to take? What are the memories that you cherish? What will your new beginning be? What will our new beginning be?